Hello, everybody. Good to see you, all of you. I'm István Locse, or Steve Locse if you wish. This is Physics of Creation, Física de la Creación in Spanish. Welcome to my channel. I am back here with Stewart Swerdlow, and this is again a big pleasure and a big honor to have you again on my channel. And we will continue with your experiences. Welcome, Stewart.
Thank you, István. It's a pleasure for me to be here.
Okay, just a few words before we start. I would like to announce coming up seminars of Stewart in Spain, approximately end of September or beginning of October. We will put the dates later on because it's not yet absolutely established. All right. Only saying that because for the people if they want to prepare themselves for your event. Good. We told that we would continue today with your Montauk experiences, but before that, I would like to ask you a few questions because in the previous session we had a really good how you say that? Really good
like a response.
All right, thank you. And I have a few questions from people. Okay. And well, the first one is saying that you mentioned that part of the espionage was your preparing your training, and you mentioned that you have been used in Montauk, but it doesn't remain clear who used you, humans, the government, or aliens?
Well, it was the government, which was made up of humans, and they also used alien technology, and there were alien observers there as well. Particularly, there were reptilians, there were the small greys, there were beings from Sirius A, Tau Ceti, and a few other locations in the galaxy.
All right.
And great. So yes, they were all interested in the results of all the experiments.
All of them. Okay, thank you. Another one, it's interesting that if you know something about what is happening in Argentina, because in the Congress there are two winged lions as a symbol. Do you know something about that?
Winged lion is a very ancient symbol. It is one of the highest frequencies that can connect from the physical reality to the non-physical. And many ancient civilizations used it for spiritual purposes, control purposes, but it's very, very powerful. And in my work, I teach that if you use winged lion frequency, you can accomplish a lot more. In fact, I have this on me.
Great. So yeah. in this topic, it would be my question. Do you think that this winged lion it's only a symbol, or really there is any race out there?
There are two races that I know of. One is called the Ari, and the other is called the Kilroti. The Ari are the winged lion beings, and they're kind of a borderline physical, non-physical. The Kilroti are a hybrid race of the Ari and the Sirius A beings who created them.
And here
they're kind of human lions, yeah.
Right. And do you think that they are more, let's say like that, more loving beings, on more on side of humanity, like let's say like that?
Well, you know, it's been my experience that none of them are on the side of humanity, but of the ones that you just mentioned, the Ari, the winged lion beings, they are more spiritual and benevolent in comparison to the others. The Kilroti are very aggressive. They had a big role to play in ancient Egypt. They also were used by the beings of Sirius A as fighter pilots for their star system. So there's a big difference between the two groups.
All right. Now, another question is coming exactly for Karoti, and the question is, as they are hybrids, what is their attitude towards other races? Are they xenophobes or shut-minded, closed-minded, or separated from others, let's say like that, or separatists? And you already mentioned their origin. It's asking for their origin.
So you're mentioning now the Kilroti specifically.
Yeah.
They are very much under the control of the beings of Sirius A. And so, in effect, their civilization is derived from that culture. They tend to be a little bit aggressive. Their intentions really are whatever the Syrians say. They basically don't have an agenda of their own. They are an extension of the Sirius A beings.
All right. Good. Now, there are two more things here, but it's linked to your experience in the book, and chapter 4 with puberty, as you were going on. And you already mentioned in the session, in the previous session, that you were you let's say like that, suffered abductions, all right, and that was painful, all right. And the question is, why don't they who abduct you, for example, ask for permission to abduct, or for anyone else? Why don't they ask for permission?
Because they feel they don't need permission. Because they feel they were helping and responsible for the creation of humanity. And so just like a parent would do something for a child without the child's permission, and so they feel the same. But I must go a little further, because as I've mentioned many times in my work and my lectures, each of these groups have their own agenda. None of them are here to help mankind. They're here to use mankind for their own purposes. And so this entire planet is basically a giant experiment for many, many different groups. And so they feel they have every right to test their experiment and to do more experiments. And not concerned to them about permission or not. But I also know, now many years later, from a spiritual perspective, that on some level, my soul personality gave this permission for these experiences, and that I obviously needed them for my own growth. So I don't hold anybody responsible except myself.
That's true. We already know about that we choose experiences, and that we agree with some experiences in purpose, let's say like that, or in order to rise more, or in order to wake up, if you will. Very good, thank you. And the last one is that when they do abductions and do some probes, as you mentioned, in your body, or introduce something in your body, why don't they use any anesthetics to reduce pain if they have so much technology?
Because they said you won't remember it. That was the answer.
Yeah, but in that moment you will produce, for example, a lot of stress hormones. for example.
Mhm.
You know? So
Yes, I use the analogy that when a baby is born and they circumcise the child or they inject the child, they say, oh, he won't remember when he's older. It's no big deal. And so it's the same thing with them. To them, we are very primitive beings. We're almost on the level, not much above animals as far as they're concerned. And so they don't have that consideration when they do these experiments.
yeah. Now is my question as we talk about this. What about people who already awaken, let's say like that, to these things that, for example, I could say if I am awakened and I can choose to say, I don't give you permission to touch me. Is that possible? Will they respect
yes,
that?
As a matter of fact.
Will they
Here's the
respect
thing.
that?
When we are dealing with demonic entities, astral entities that present themselves, we can't say you have no permission. You cannot touch me, and then they cannot. But they assume that human beings don't know that, and so will never say that. You see? Now certain alien groups, they don't care if you say you have no permission or not, because they say we have every permission. And in fact, to them, we are the invaders. You understand?
All right.
So we must be, to say a blanket statement is difficult because each group has their own way and their own method and their own acceptance.
And in that
yes,
case,
you have the right to say. You have the right to say no.
And in that case, as you say that some groups think that they have all permissions, can you do something against it? Is there any?
Well, I teach that's where the lion frequency comes in. Protection frequency, oversoul energy, God mind energy, all of these will empower you and block the energy of these beings. And so that's what I teach in my work.
Good. Great. Fantastic. Well, these are the questions. So I suggest now, though, let's continue when you where you finished last time, if you want, and let's see what happened next to that. Okay, we saw your experiences in the platform, all right, and now what? Please.
Well, it was not long after that that the Montauk project began. And I was used and taken into those experiments because of my family history, which I explained last time, and also because of my genetics and my mind pattern. And because I believe I mentioned last time that I was told that I was a creation myself, that I was implanted into my mother's womb, and so Montauk was a continuation for me of that experimentation. Now, I was only 13 years old when I started the Montauk project, and I was there for 13 years. Now, 13 years, that does not mean I was there continuously, but back and forth, and they have a way of bringing you there and then taking you back, sometimes with no passage of time and sometimes with realization that time has passed. And so that was my experience, and it involved many, many things. It involved genetic manipulation, time travel, weather manipulation, programming, sexual magic ritual, all of these and a lot more. It was a very, very comprehensive project. In the beginning, they would use people who were considered to be expendable, alcoholics, drug addicts, orphans, foster children, people that nobody would miss. And they basically tested a lot of things on these people. As the time went on and they realized that there were certain genetics that were beneficial for their project, then they would look for people with those genetics. And that's when other people started to be taken and sometimes never return. You know, over the 13 years of the project, it's estimated that there were anywhere from 200,000 to 300,000 people that were used, both anywhere from infants to adults. And of that number, less than 1% survived.
Wow.
And of that less than 1%, very few can function in society. You know, for me, it was very difficult. On August 12, 1983, when the project crashed abruptly, I felt like I was unplugged, like something unplugged me from the electricity, and I didn't know where I was, who I was. I was literally like an alien on this planet. I did not even know how to put petrol in a vehicle. I had no idea what music was popular, what sports teams. I had no idea. It was like being in another world, which for me it was. And also, for 29 years, I was physically blind because during the experiments, they used microwave and electromagnetic energies that blinded me so that my optic nerve no longer connected to my brain. They did this for a reason. They did this because they were trying to create a person who could see into other realities without the use of a device, who could use a larger percentage of the brain. And so in effect, I became like a living MRI machine.
Wow.
And to this day, I can do this. It was not until December 1999 when I had surgery to connect my optic nerve back to my brain. And when that was done, I had pads over my eyes. I didn't know what would happen when they took the bandage off of my head. I didn't know if I'd be completely blind or what I could see. I had no idea until that came off. And now what happens is I can see physically, and then there's the overlay of the energy, many, many layers of this. So that's why it's very difficult for me to go outside, to be in society, because it's a difficult situation, constant bombardment of information, physically, non-physically. I can't sleep at night because my eyes are closed or open, doesn't make a difference. I get the constant energy and information. So it's a very, very difficult life for me. And even though I am part of that less than 1% that survived, you know, Ishvan, there are days when I wish I had not survived because I don't really fit in. I don't fit into human society, and I never will. I tried many times, you know, to fake it, to become part.
Yeah.
It doesn't work. And there are a couple of other people I know from that project who have same issue, you know. And so I decided many times to kill myself, and I tried several times, but I was stopped. And so obviously I have a reason to be here, and I decided then if I have to be here, I will teach people what I know so that they can accept it or reject it, but so that nobody will have to go through those experiences again like I did, because it was very, very cruel. And I recommend that people watch the movie Montauk Chronicles, which is mostly about my experiences in my life, and then they can see basically what I went through there.
Okay, later we will put a link here how to purchase this movie, or where can they find the movie. Is it in Spanish also or only in English?
I don't believe it is in Spanish yet, but I know that there is an attempt to make subtitles, but I'm not sure the status of it. You would have to ask the producer.
All right. Now, a question. In Montauk, as I understood, the project itself were producing also soldiers. Is that true? Let's say automatic soldiers, or
what they called super soldiers.
Super soldiers. And do you think that some of these sleeping agents, for example, could be involved in some let's be direct, in some of terror attacks in the US, for example, Boston?
Okay, two different groups. Super soldiers were developed in the later stage of Montauk, from approximately 1979 to 1983 was when that part of the project became available. The idea was to create soldiers who could exist in many environments without being weakened, to make them very strong, very much like you see the soldiers in Star Wars, for example. Mm-hmm. What we see in the terrorist attacks in the modern world, these are mind-controlled warriors. These are people who have been programmed, who go into altars that make them have a particular function. They have usually one function, and then there's a suicide program that comes in so that they are eliminated and they cannot discuss what they have done. Super soldiers also have a suicide program, but they are designed to exist and have many functions. Many functions, and I know a couple of super soldiers that I have communication with, mm-hmm. and they have a very difficult time also existing in society. It's a very difficult situation for them, and that's mm-hmm. also why, Istvan, I teach deprogramming techniques so that people can eliminate the mind control that's in their brain.
That's great. That's really great. Do you think that some of these events, but I would like to link, if you have any knowledge of that, do you remember school shootings? Like, for example, in Connecticut. If you remember.
Sandy Hook, or
Sandy Hook. Sandy Hook. No, Sandy Hook.
Yeah.
Could one of these linked to one of these mind-programmed people to commit these atrocities?
Absolutely. That individual who committed that crime was absolutely under mind control, and all you have to do is look at him. Look at his face, look at his eyes, look at his behavior, and you can see he wasn't right. He was not in his regular mind.
So
we saw this also in the movie theater shootings. We see this in the airport attacks. Any of these so-called terrorists are really manufactured by the Illuminati in order to create fear in the society. And the reason is so that people will want guns to be taken away from the population, so that the only ones who have weapons are the Illuminati and their armies.
The Second Amendment.
And that's especially... Sorry?
For example, to eliminate the Second Amendment, if I remember well.
Yeah.
For example.
Well, my opinion is that there is no more Constitution in the United States. In fact, they don't even teach it, and the students have no idea even what it is.
Yeah.
And people in the United States, they have no idea what their own law is.
Yeah.
Same in the EU. EU is the same.
All right. Have you been in the Montauk as soldier?
As a soldier?
Yeah.
No, I was not a soldier.
Oh, so I must apologize though to the listeners, because I don't know why in some reading I made I understood that you served as a soldier also in the Montauk, and I must apologize. I misunderstood that.
Yeah, no, I was not actually a soldier, but I worked in helping to train those soldiers.
Oh.
And I was sent on certain missions as, let's say, espionage, that kind of thing, and also for investigation of certain groups or alien technologies that the Montauk controllers are interested in. So, I mean, I suppose in a way I was their soldier, a private soldier for them, but I was not involved in any kind of military operation like that.
Okay. Okay, Stewart, can you tell us or tell the listeners some important event which is in your book also during your Montauk experiences, but also with some aliens, if you can?
As far as experiments or plans, or what do you mean?
No, I mean your experiences with aliens during your Montauk period.
Yes. Most of the time, the aliens that were there, and they were different groups, much of the time they were there as observers. They wanted to know the results of the experiment. They wanted to know the effects of the equipment on the particular individual. They also wanted to know how the humans redesigned their equipment to accomplish other functions. For example, the Montauk chair, which is a famous technology, was from Series A, and it was given to the government of the United States, and they redesigned it to accomplish different type of functions for the individuals who were being programmed and used.
Do you call
many of the time?
Do you call it backward technology, or how you say that?
Reverse engineering.
Reverse engineering. Yeah, thank you.
Or in those days, they call it a redesigned engineering or redesigned technology. In those days, they said that. But at other times, some of these beings were involved in the sexual magic ritual, where they would download energy, create energy, and a lot of them, in fact, all of them, were interested in hybridization, using the genetics of the people in the project, mixed with alien genetics, insect genetics, everything that you can imagine, to create all types of workers, basically. So that was a main effort with these groups. But we were indoctrinated, and we were told that human beings were not capable of taking care of themselves, that they had to be monitored, they had to be controlled, and that the work that we were doing in Montauk was beneficial to mankind, because without it, humans would destroy themselves. That's what we were told. Of course, I don't quite believe all of that, but unfortunately, what we see happening in the world today kind of proves that too.
Yeah.
But that's a whole nother topic. The aliens, some of them also were interested in taking human beings to different worlds to start different societies. They were interested in creating teachers or liaisons between them and certain human groups. Many different possibilities that these aliens were involved in. They were also interested in future possibilities. As we know, there's infinite future possibilities depending on the decisions we make at this moment. Exactly. And so some of the project was to see what will happen to humans in the future, and there were many different outcomes.
Yeah.
And so based on that, some of the alien groups altered their plans of what they had prepared for humanity to accommodate these possibilities.
All right. And do you think that is there any possibility for mankind, let's say like that, to awaken, to free itself from all these manipulations?
There's always that possibility. Am I seeing that happen? No. You know, I hear all the time, or I see on the internet that humans are awakening and people are becoming aware. It's like, well, who are they? I'd like to meet those people, because in my travels around the world, I hardly meet anyone who is like this. And so we have to also take into consideration the fact that there's programming and mind control for almost 8 billion people on this planet. So there's a difficulty in people truly awakening, because it's almost like there's a layer on top of their minds that prevents them from doing this.
Yeah.
Ultimately, I believe it will happen. It has to happen, because all people are not supposed to remain in prison forever. And so, as I mentioned to you before we started to video, humans as a species have a victimization mind pattern.
Yeah.
And when there's victimization, it attracts tyrants and oppressors. And so that is why we have the world that exists today. If humans were to eliminate the victimization, then none of this can happen. The Illuminati will no longer exist, and negative alien groups cannot come here. It's not going to happen tomorrow or next week, but I hope within my lifetime I will see this happen.
And I hope too. And there is something very interesting you talk about in your Montauk experience about young boys, young people, young men who were used, I mean, lost their energy, because there is a man, some scientists who are sucking out their energy to make mental development or something like that by mentalists.
Yeah.
Can you expand a little bit on that?
Yeah, they're called batteries. You know, Montauk Project was 95% male, masculine energy. Females were not used except for breeding purposes and for sexual ritual. But when you had one particular male person who needed to be boosted, they would take other males and use their energy to boost that particular person in the function, especially if they were being used with computers for downloading mind patterns, etc., or for creating from the non-physical to the physical. So these were called boosters. Many of the boosters had, for lack of a better term, they had a shelf life, because after a while they deteriorated and passed on. This is why they promoted the use of young boys, children who had a lot of energy that could be used over and over again. And unfortunately, many of them either became mentally ill or they were used up and eliminated. I became an anomaly because I kept going and I retained my memory, and that was not supposed to happen. And so I became an enigma. I became something to be studied even further because I survived and because I could remember.
How do they...
So many people...
Excuse me. How do they wipe memories? Do you know something about the technology?
Well, they actually mask them. You can't eliminate memory. It's in your chemically stored in your brain and in your soul personality energetically. You cannot remove that. But they can mask it, cover it up, make you think something else happened. It's kind of like taking the floor and putting a carpet on it. And so you don't know the floor, you only know the carpet. It's kind of like that.
All right, Stewart, I would like to tell us about your experience in Montauk when you mentioned that you saw reptilian beings just pop in or pop out from physical reality. How was that, and in what circumstances have you been in that moment?
Well, there were a few circumstances. A lot of that happened during the sexual magic ritual events, where they would come into the reality. Many of the reptilians have a home base in the lower astral layers. In other words, many of them are not actually physically living on the earth, but they live in the next layer, in the astral layers, which we cannot see visually because it's not within the bandwidth of our vision. And so they have the technology that enables them to decrease the vibrational rate and become manifested physically so you can see them. So it looks like they simply popped into your physical space, and they can also then raise their vibration to bleep out of it. It's almost like if you have a radio and you turn the dial and there's a different station, and it's kind of like that, and they go into a different station of where they exist. Mm-hmm. They also have a technology that makes them physically invisible, so that even if they're physically there, you can't see them because the technology it masks them, and then they can change that so that you have so it's two different things actually. One is that they're really there, but you can't see them, and the other one is that they come in and out of a reality. So it depends on the situation, and it's not just so simple as people think. It can be very complex as far as that's concerned.
And have you talked directly to one of them?
Unfortunately, I have. Many of them have no desire to speak to human beings or to people. They feel they are superior, and that they will speak to you when they want to. However, the communication can be either physical, verbal, because they do have the ability to speak verbally, but most of the time it was a mental communication where they would transmit a thought into the mind, and then you can respond actually either physically or mentally. And I have experienced both of those over those years at Montauk and even afterwards. They weren't the only ones. Most alien beings who are visiting here have this capacity to speak mentally without using the verbal communication.
But also verbal.
Yeah. However, there are some that do not have the ability to speak. They don't have a voice box. They don't have a capacity to express sounds.
Okay.
So it depends on the civilization.
Okay. And can we know what did you talk? What did they tell you?
Well, most of the time it was instructions of what they expected from us or from me, and many times they would tell me to obey them and not the human superiors that were there. They had their own agenda that they did not even share with the commanders or the controllers of the Montauk project. So this was a very common practice, and then we, who were kind of in the middle, we would be punished either way. If we obeyed the reptilians, we would be punished by the humans. If we obeyed the humans, the reptilians punished us. So it was not an easy life.
I understand. Is there, I don't know if I understood well, that you came to learn some part of human history or mankind history directly from one of these reptilian beings?
Yes. Yeah. And the truth is, they were responsible for the creation of mankind, and that's talked about in the book of Genesis. And I wrote about this in Blue Blood and in True World History.
We will talk about that.
So they can...
We will talk about this particular theme or topic in further sessions. I only wanted to ask you this, all right? Good, because we don't have much time now.
Right.
We will finish here, and only tell you that thank you again, and hope to see you back, and we will go forward with your experiences, and we will reach the point to talk about this particular topic, mankind's history, the true one, as your knowledge, all right? And further, we will start to compare these things, what I have in my knowledge about Arvisuras, remember, and much more discoveries. I mean, really physical evidences, and we have to match them. We have to make some logical how you say that.
Well, we have to coordinate them.
Coordinate.
So that they make sense.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you very much. Well, Stewart, thank you again. I don't know if you want to tell something more to the audience or anything.
Well, I look forward to seeing people in Spain and maybe in other parts of Latin America. And I invite you to go to my website, expansions.com, and find all the information that you may need.
Good, fantastic. Just this. Remember to everyone that Stewart will be in Spain, probably end of September or starting October. We will publish this on Física de la Creación, my page, my group, exactly in Facebook, and also in my webpage, and also in expansions.com, right?
Right, exactly.
Okay.
Correct.
Very well then. With anything more, without anything more, thank you again. Big hug to everybody. Thanks for watching. Thank you, Stewart. And
thank you very much, everybody.
Until next time. Bye-bye.